It is time for Making Connections, and this is, of course, our weekly interview segment, and we meet up with some interesting people who make up the fabric of Korean society. And today we're going to be talking about, you guessed it, K-pop. It's become a global phenomenon, and behind the success of K-pop artists and idol groups, of course, are the industry leaders and the companies that train these young artists. And our guests today are two Frenchmen who are tapping into this market, but with a different approach. Joon Hae Spielmann? Spielmann or Spielmann?
No, it's right. Both
of them are right. Great. Spielmann and Sommer are co-founders of SG Entertainment, a human-focused production agency for idols, performers, and creators that aims to marry European concepts of artistry with the existing framework of K-pop training system. So to break out of the box and try some new things. And we're delighted to have both of them in the studio this morning. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning.
Yeah.
Great to have you in the studio. We usually start off with getting to know the personal story of you, but I want to start off actually, because you're both from France, we introduce you as two Frenchmen. That's right? Yes?
That's correct.
I wanted to start off with a retweet that French President Emmanuel Macron did recently. He asked a question to French citizens, asking them what would they buy with 300 euros if they could spend it on cultural products and events. And he retweeted 3 responses, and one of them was from, I imagine, an army member who said buying BTS tickets. That was the response. So does that mean that 1 in 3 French people would go out of their way to buy a BTS ticket? Is that the extent of K-pop sort of fandom in France?
We can hope so.
Thomas saying we can hope so.
No, I think K-pop's gotten pretty big in France and making its way up to the presidency now.
Yes.
There's quite the fans are there's a growing number of them, and they're really vocal in the French fans especially. Mm-hmm. They're very, very vocal. And before the pandemic, the BTS actually filled the main stadium in France, Stade de France, mm-hmm. the biggest one, twice.
Wow.
So that speaks to it, yes.
Right. I do remember that outside of Asia, from what I recall anyways, France did seem to be one of the first sort of Western countries where K-pop seemed to be making big waves. And it was even before BTS, right? Like SHINee, and they all had a pretty big response. So is that kind of what propelled you to start this agency? We'll kind of get into that in detail, I guess, but the two of you, Joon Hae and Thomas, did you know each other before starting this agency? Were you good friends before? How'd you get to know each other?
It's a long story.
Really?
Short, if possible. We only have about 20 minutes, please.
And I'll make it short.
Yes, thank you.
No, we've actually known each other for a very long time, for
Okay.
over 20 years. We met in the French equivalent of junior high school. Mm-hmm. And we've had quite different lives until we met for that project.
Right.
It's been fascinating since then.
And Thomas was the best at school. So he has got always the high score. And in my case, this was the worst one.
So it was a meeting of the best and the worst student
Absolutely.
academically.
Yeah.
How did you two become friends? You were both fans of K-pop then, or?
Not really.
No. Joon Hae, how did you kind of come together then and start this agency?
So we had a lot of discussion before about especially the need from our actual environment and actual society around love and spreading love message, and what did BTS to get successful was on spreading the love, values around the world.
Self-love too, right?
Yes,
Loving yourself,
absolutely,
right?
Absolutely. So, we, in a way, we get a little bit inspired from them as well, to encourage about our initiative that with the entertainment, we can have a strong, deep impact of the society to make the humanity evolve.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's pretty deep, Joon Hae, I have to say. No, nothing to apologize about. But it's a lot deeper than I expected, actually. When I would think about two guys getting together and deciding to start a music or a talent agency in Korea, I wasn't expecting quite that answer. And maybe it's a different answer from what most talent agencies would actually give as the reason for starting it. And I guess this also kind of points to your approach, like this human-focused approach. But why in Korea? And because I know that, especially you, Joon Hae, you sort of come from a musical background. Your family is also in music as well. So you've been exposed to the music and entertainment industry for a while. You could have kind of capitalized on that in France, but why did you decide to come to Korea and start it here?
So, because I was born here in Korea, especially in Seoul. I was checking a little bit about the culture and how the soft power from Korean was evolving during the last years. And I realized that there were more successful that we did in a very short time comparing to universal music that still belongs to French and from companies and such kind of things. And yeah, we realized that I forget what I want to say.
Well, I realized like you were originally from Korea, so I understand that you were adopted by
Yes,
French
so,
parents.
yeah, that's
and
true.
so that's part of the draw that brought you back to Korea. But
Absolutely.
the huge sort of meteoric rise of K-pop and its sort of global success is another reason why you want to tap into that?
Yeah, of course. So I was already, so I've got a family background who is a producer, a musician, and such kind of things. But of course, I had as well my own monitor to find out what's happened all around the world, especially in Korea. And so I get very interested about the potential that K-pop can actually give from a communications perspective in a way. So yes, with Thomas, we choose to get really deep into K-pop on themselves because it was a huge potential, of course, yes.
Okay. Thomas, what did you think that you two could bring to the sort of the K-pop and the talent management sort of industry here in Korea that hasn't been done before? Obviously, you're both not from Korea. You have a background that is European. What did you think that you can bring to this industry?
Yeah, absolutely. So we saw, as Joon Hae was mentioning, we saw the very quick success of K-pop in the West. And we thought, there's something here. There's something's happening. Young Europeans, young French people are choosing to learn Korean for the past 5 years. Something's happening. And we saw, yeah, K-pop has great potential and can have more potential. But in order to be more sustainable, they, in the West especially, they need to get a little bit deeper with the concepts. They need to focus on the human aspect more, focus on the meaning and of the concepts and how it relates to the individuals and their fans. So we thought, in the West, we have a culture of artists whose careers span over dozens of years. You can think of Bob Dylan, even Ed Sheeran now, because they have very emotional and deep and connections with the fans that evolve with the fans over time. And they do this because they use their own emotions, their own personal stories, their own suffering in order to connect with the fans. So this whole concept around creation, around what it is to be an artist, around identity, all of these concepts is what we want to bring. We are bringing now to Korea to merge it with the concept of K-pop and I would say the K-pop system of incubating the trainees.
So does that mean the way that you are incubating and training these young artists is very different? Do you spend some different time with them? I mean, because I know what we've heard anyways, that these trainees are put under grueling schedules. You know, they have to train for hours every day. Sometimes they're not getting enough sleep, definitely not getting enough to eat, but they just go through hours and hours of training for that debut. Do you have a different sort of schedule or program for them then?
Absolutely.
Oh.
On the right opposite.
Oh.
It means to stimulate creativity or to stimulate actually the way to to extend our vision. It means the way to develop ideas. We need a lot to sleep, actually.
Yes.
And especially during the morning, you need to have a little bit the time to rest because during the night, usually you are very active. All creative people who has got incredible talents, they prefer to work when it is very calm and especially during the night.
A lot of them are night owls, yes.
Absolutely. So we are focusing that our own planning and training program will be not disturbing about the natural way to be creative.
their sleep patterns.
Absolutely.
That's really interesting. So when you are trying to recruit trainees, do you find it more difficult to do so because you're not from sort of Korea? Or do you find that, when you approach them with this different program saying, we will let you sleep 8 hours or 10 hours a day, is it easy to recruit the new trainees? Thomas, what do you think?
It was not easy in the beginning
Yeah.
because we were facing a lot of stereotypes and a lot of expectations about what a trainee should be, how things should be done.
Right.
But I think that once we explain what our intent is, what we want to do, and what the differences are and what they can gain from it as well, then we manage to get a better and a positive response from them. So currently we are training fully Korean trainees, and they are happy with us, and they are developing themselves. So I believe that our methodology has a lot of potential in the future.
If the methodology is different, is the final product different as well? Is the sound, the look, obviously the philosophy will be different as well. Do you think, tell us about the groups that you are sort of creating right now, if they have debuted and how they are kind of different from the other acts as well.
So we are doing a little bit different. It means usually we have got idols who has got a huge numbers of fans who are all around them, such kind of things.
Yes.
But we are creating leaders idols, so it's a little bit different. It means they're gonna be strongly active to find out good actions all around the world to inspire us for the future. You see, so we can have a better perspective about the adversity is gonna be in the future. Yeah. So yes, in a way they're gonna be different because they needs to be different. They needs to be more independent. They needs to find out themselves to have this uniqueness to inspire us to be also unique and how beautiful it is to be unique in a way.
So I imagine what you look for in a trainee is also very different from maybe some of the larger agencies or the other sort of Korean agencies as well. Because some people listening to our show might be interested in maybe signing up for your agency. What do you look for? What is a good sort of trainee or recruit for your SG entertainment?
So the skills about dancing, singing are, of course, very important.
Yeah, that's
And
just a given, right?
the
Basic.
skills and the potential. Mostly we're looking for is the potential. And they don't necessarily need to have everything right from the start because they are going to learn. But what we are more specifically looking for is the capacity to attract the audience, the capacity to establish themselves as role models, as people that the audience, their fans, are going to look up to find guidance in their life. This is the most important part.
That's difficult, though, isn't it? Especially if you have a limited period of time with them. If it's an interview or 20 or 30 minutes, how do you see that? How do you check that?
What we rely on a lot is psychological tools. So, for instance,
I see.
MBTI test is something that we use a lot in order to understand them, but also trying to ask them a little bit about their life, about where they come from, what kind of adversity and hardships they've been through, and see how they manage to face them. And this way we can know, okay, they've been through this, they managed it, so they have this experience, this wisdom to share with their audience. And therefore we can have a better idea about who they are.
Is this where your psychotherapist background comes into play, Joon Hae? I noticed that you put on your website that you were also a psychotherapist, or you trained or studied that as well?
It's more psychoanalyst. It means it's more
Psychoanalyst?
Yes,
Okay.
it's more research, more developing new concept, new theory,
I see.
new approach. And I used to work with some new neuroscientists and cognitive scientists as well. And during the work that we did together, we find out a lot of different tools to adapt for stimulate the human potential intelligent in a way. So this is something that we have got directly into SG Entertainment. We are update and on top on the research from neuroscience approach when it belongs to creativity and on themselves.
Very interesting. Okay. I mentioned at the top of the show how this sort of new term fandustry is becoming very, very powerful. And it seems to have been born from the huge fan base for K-pop. But now they're using this not only to sell goods, but they're using it for good acts for humanity. Like we saw some fans for BTS doing works for the environment and whatnot. And it seems from what you've been telling us that you're also searching for trainees who are interested and who can be role models, and you're also helping them to become role models as well. So what values do you nurture in your trainees, not only as performers, but again, as future leaders? Will it be on one specific field? Is it the environment? Is it social issues? What are you trying to instill in your trainees?
Yeah, as you mentioned, the fan industry is growing because, especially with the young generations, there's a bit of a lack of direction right now. So they're looking for models to follow. They're looking for people whose actions and behaviors and values they can take for themselves to orientate their own lives. But as far as we're concerned, we don't think there's necessarily one specific area that needs to be addressed. It will depend on the idols, on the artists themselves.
What they're interested in.
Because what they think the values are is also depends, the way that they're going to address them depends on their own experience. So we cannot just go to them and tell, you're going to now work for the, defend the environment if this is not something that they personally can relate to.
But we still have a core foundation on this. We have got the three values from our own entertainment. It means to be truth, to be fair, and to be graceful and beautiful. If we respect the three values, whatever your actions is going to be tolerated in our company anyway.
Okay. But like you say, I mean, all those things will be, they're complementary to their main job, which is to be a successful pop artist, right?
Absolutely.
And with SG, do you think they would have a better chance maybe at kind of debuting overseas? Would you be able to attract trainees with that possibility as well because of your network in France or Europe? Do you kind of offer that, or like do you maybe offer more of a focus on making it big overseas as well, or?
Well, absolutely, because our origins and our network is also very much focused on Europe and the West. So this is definitely one of our advantages when we sell to trainees. Okay, you're going to, when you debut, you will already have an audience in the West. You will already have, as we have developed a lot of relations with the fan bases, for instance, with the fandom communities. These are people that they can already talk to as soon as they debut, and even actually before they debut. As with our methodology, actually we have the trainees perform, express themselves, and start a career in a way, either as singers or even as actors, doing these kind of things, even before they debut, so they can already start to professionalize themselves. So what we're offering is actually not only a promise in the future, but right now a way for them to become professionals in the industry.
Yes, I want to add something about what Thomas said. It means nowadays the young generations cannot wait anymore. It needs to have directly concrete things who's happened. So joining a word with our actions is essential to actually win trust. So this is what we are focusing at SG.
Very good. Final question. Can I ask you what your sort of plans are for maybe this year or the immediate future? It could be a specific group that you're debuting or some specific plans for a group.
Yes, we're currently working on our first girl group, whose name is Alpha Ray, and which will debut in the second half of 2022, so next year. Next year,
okay. Joon Hae, anything to add to that?
Absolutely not. I think the best will be to discover what's going to happen in the future. But for sure, we understand the needs nowadays from the young generation to feel that they are not alone to face adversity, that they are not alone to find out a way to make the world better. And so we want, through our trainees and through our idols, be able to speak for them, but also to take actions for them. So if BTS was speaking for them, they're going to act for them.
Right. Well, thank you very much. It was really interesting to talk to you both, and I wish you the best of luck with your business and your groups coming forward.